Hi, this is Sarah Veke from middlwareinventory.com. In this video, we are going to see how to provision a virtual machine with Apache server using Vagrant and Ansible. So this is a beginner to moderate kind of video so that you could be able to understand. Let's get into the game. Now I have a Mac box with me, and I have already created a directory apps Vagrant, and I have a Vagrant installed already. I can just see the Vagrant version by just giving Vagrant space version. As you could see here, I have 2.0.3, and yes, now let's go ahead and init the Vagrant. It will create a new Vagrant file for us. It is a basic configuration file for Vagrant. So every task that the Vagrant does will be based on this Vagrant file. So now, as you could see, you would be able to see the new Vagrant file created. So let's go ahead and open the Vagrant file. So this is a Vagrant file which will be created when you are giving Vagrant in it. So there are a lot of comments and everything about the the modules, like what is that this one does and what is this line does and everything. So we don't want all of that. So let's remove all of it. In fact, let me quickly do one thing. I already have a template ready to save the time. Let's see the file. Let's move template to Vagrant file. Now this is a Vagrant file we are going to use. Let me give you what each and every line does as a quick summary. So vagrant.configure to this line is actually doing this. 2 is a version of Vagrant API, and here the config is a variable. If you are already aware of Ruby, it is not that hard to understand this file. As you could see here, it is a Ruby file. So here we are just defining, like for this config variable, we are defining what is the properties for it in terms of Ruby. So for Vagrant, we are defining like config.vmbox check update. This line is actually meant to disable the auto box check update. It is a basic feature that will happen every time that you are bringing up the Vagrant VM. So we are just disabling that feature to save the time. And here vagrant.vm provider is a Virtualbox. We have a Virtualbox provider, as you might be already aware. A Vagrant is a server provisioning tool. It doesn't have any engine. It just uses providers like Virtualbox and VMware Workstation, and it uses the command line of those virtualization tools, and it just like works on top of them. So now here we are defining our VM config.vm.define web server. This is our VM name. This is going to be our VM name, as you could see here. Web server do web, and we are defining the properties like what is the host name of our VM, what is the box that we are going to use for this, like CentOS or RHEL or Ubuntu and everything. So we are mentioning it here. And the network, I am going to use this VM just for the development purpose, so I just use private network. If you want, you can go for public network. You can read the Vagrant documents for it. And web.vm.network forwarded ports, this line, it's actually I'm trying to forward the guest, which is the VM that we are going to create. And as we already said, we are going to install an Apache server in it. So the Apache server's port 80 will be forwarded to 8080 in my Mac OS, so that I would be able to access like localhost 8080 from my Mac OS itself. And I'm creating a synced folder between host and the guest. So this app shared that you see here is my Mac OS available folder, and it will be available into the VM in the name of /shared. And the next line is to provision the web server with Ansible. Here we are doing the actual Ansible provisioning. The one of the good feature that Vagrant has inbuilt is an Ansible. So you could see that you can just mention web.vm provision, and you can just mention Ansible provisioning and do, and this is a variable, and we are declaring ansible.playbook. And what is a playbook name? So we already have this playbook written. So this is a Vagrant file. Let's save it, and now we have the Vagrant file here, and let's quickly validate this Vagrant file. So if we say Vagrant validate, it will say Vagrant file is validated successfully if there is no issues. And as you seen in there, the configuration, the YAML file of Ansible is already written. As you could see here, since we are using the Ansible within the Vagrant, so I have to mention the hosts as all. We don't have to give the VM name or anything, just give hosts all. And here I'm declaring a variable var.yaml. If you are familiar with Ansible playbook writing, you could go through this. Maybe I would give you a little overview, like what are each task does here. So handlers is just a kind of a task. I can just call it within the playbook at any runtime. So I'm just declaring restart Apache, it's a handler, so I would be calling it like after doing the changes. And these are the tasks here. I'm just installing the heap will release. It's a new CentOS box that we are provisioning. So we have to install the repositories like heapl, so that we would be able to get the Apache and all other tools. So we are doing this task here. And the second is to make sure that the Apache is at the latest version. So this will install the Apache if it is not already there. The third task is creating a sites available and sites enabled directory. It's a kind of industry practice where they create a sites available and sites enabled to two different folders, and which they keep the virtual host configuration files in sites available and sites enabled, and will create soft links according to their recommendation, according to their necessity. So whenever they want to release any file live, so they will just create a soft link of the sites available into the sites enabled. So this is kind of industry practice that we follow, so I'm just using it. And modify the default Apache configuration file. So I'm just having two Ginger 2 files in which I would have some kind of variables and everything, which would be replaced at the runtime by the variables that I have declared in var.yaml. So before we come back to this Ansible playbook, let's go and see what is the content of the variable file. As you could see, I have two variables declared. One is a domain, which is middlewareinventory.com. Another one is a doc root. The value is shared. And there are two Ginger 2 files. One is httpd conf ginger2.j2. Let's hit it here. As you could see here, include conf module, include sites enabled.conf. So as you could see here, whichever is in sites available will not be considered. Only the sites enabled, the enabled sites will be considered. So except this line, every line here is available in the basic httpd.conf file, which comes with the distribution. So we haven't done anything major here except adding that line. Yeah. And the next is the basic VH. So this is a very minimal configuration thing that we have, like for a virtual host 80 and server admin. And as I said, the domain name middlewareinventory.com from the var.yaml would be replaced here and here also, and the doc root /shared will be replaced here, and the directory will also gets the doc root, this variable gets replaced. during the runtime before it is gets copied over to the VM. So we have the Ginger2 files and we have the vars.oaml and everything. So let's go back to the YAML file. We were at copying this files task. So yeah, I think here modify the default Apache configuration file. So we are copying these base the Ginger2 file that we have, httpd.conf.j2 and basic vh.conf.j2 to the VM that we are newly provisioning, the source and destination that we have declared. And the next task is for creating a document root directory, which is /shared. So it's going to be created as /shared. I think that we don't really need it because it is going to be already created. We are going to be, it is a shared kind of mount that we have declared in Vagrant file itself. Anyways, so let it be there. And symlink, the sites available and sites enabled, as I said. So we are going to create a site soft link for the configuration files available in sites available into the sites enabled, so that it can get into the world out live. So that's a step. And make sure the mime.types in CentOS, actually we face some issues where there were no mime.types file installed with HTTPD. So we had to make sure that the HTTPD mime.files is available in etc httpd.conf directory. As you could see here, it's a kind of conditional based task execution. So there is a register for this task. As you could see here, it's a mime out. And the next consequence task that you see here, which is copy the etc mime.types, which is a kind of foolproof task. When this is failing, like the register mime out is failed, it would copy the default etc mime types to etc httpd.conf.mime types. So it's a kind of conditional based execution. And here you see download the home page of www.middlewareinventory.com to temp. Here we do something quite interesting, like we are downloading the index page www.middlewareinventory.com, and we are saving the content as index.html, and we are saving it into a temp directory, and we are copying the temp index.html to a doc root, which is /add index.html, so that the Apache will pick it. Which means, like, once we have started the Apache server, we would get the home page of middlewareinventory.com, which is there in the internet. Now make sure the Apache is running. That is the last task. Now let's go ahead and save this file and start the provisioning by saying Vagrant hub. You can do the provisioning after creation of VM. If you wanted to just create the VM and not do a provision, you can just say Vagrant hub no provision. I don't want to do that. I want to do the provision also, so I'm just hitting it Vagrant up. So meanwhile, let's go to the middlewareinventory.com to see like what is the home page available there. So this is the home page available, middlewareinventory.com. So we supposed to get this same page once this VM is ready in as index.html being served in the Apache server that we are going to install. So as you could see here, the Vagrant is getting booted. It is trying to connect. As I said, that this web server is the name of the VM that we are provisioning. So for all the Vagrant related administration, like stopping, starting, or reprovisioning or reloading and everything, you will just, in terms of for Vagrant web server is the name that it will refer to the VM. And there is one more name that you have to take a note. You see this here, Vagrant web server 46033. So as I earlier said, the Vagrant is just a tool. So this is the name which will be created, the VM name in Virtualbox. So I will quickly show you in Virtualbox. Let me load the Virtualbox here. You see this 46033, yeah, and you could also see the web server here. Yeah, now, yeah, the machine is booted and ready. And as you could see here, mounting the shared folder /shared, and by default, Vagrant will load /Vagrant, and the it will load the basic the present working directory, which is apps Vagrant, in the name of /Vagrant inside the new VM. So however, but I want to just see how the mounting is working, so I just have declared additional one inside. So now it's running our Ansible playbook. The tasks are getting executed. Okay, and here it has just succeeded with EPL release step, and here it is actually waiting for Apache installation. So when it is getting installed, I would like to make a request to you. If you like this, you can go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Middleware Inventory, where you are seeing this. Let me show you the channel. Yeah, so this is a channel, so please subscribe to this channel. So there are other videos in WebLogic, and we would be updating. So if you have any question like what is MW inventory and what is middleware inventory, see, we were formerly known as mwinventory.in, now we are middlewareinventory.com. Still, you could go there and you will get redirected here. So let's go back here, and we are, yes, we are at the good shape, except one task is failed, which is running handler, like unable to restart the service HTTPD, interactive authentication required. That's fine, I don't have to restart the Apache. Let us see, like all other steps are completed, so we can just ignore this handler thing. So let's make sure that the site is up and running by hitting the IP 120.168. let's get the IP Vagrant. You can just get the status here, Vagrant status, and you can see the web server. So either you can see the IP in the Vagrant file which you have declared, it is 10.10. so let's give 10.10 and enter. Tada! As you could see here, the full middleware inventory's homepage. You see this here, this one has come. How about the forwarding? Did it work? Localhost 8080. Yes, the port forwarding has also worked. So if you are kind of little worried like why this running handler didn't work, I don't think that which is necessary. If you would like to reprovision it, I can do something, which is sorry, not the Vagrant file. Let's do the Ansible. Oh, bear with me. Yeah, here. I don't really need this handler. Sorry, we need this handler at some parts here. So I don't know at which part it failed. That's a fail changed. So I can look at it later. So this is not gonna do any harm. As you could see, the objective of this post or tutorial is achieved. We are able to, the port forwarding is working fine, localhost 8080, I'm getting the site, and also the host, the site is working, so we are good. So there are other tasks that you could do with Vagrant, like I could refer some cheat sheet to you, which I used to refer all the time. You could see like creating a VM, starting a VM, getting into a VM, stopping a VM like SSH, stopping a VM, cleaning up a VM, destroy boxes, tips, and everything. You could optionally reprovision also. You can just say Vagrant provision. You can, if you want, you can reprovision it. you can reprovision the box. So here we come to the end of the video. I don't want to make it any longer. So here, let me give you a quick overview. Like, we have a Mac box and we have created a apps Vagrant directory, in which we have did Vagrant in it. It has created a Vagrant file, but we have replaced with the content we already had, which is this one. So it's a Ruby file. Here we declared what is the memory, like 1024 MB, and we have just declared the host name and the box and private network and every VM based thing. As you could see, like, I have used CentOS 7 if I haven't said already. So this is how you have to list the boxes, Vagrant box list. If you want to download any new boxes, you can go ahead and download from the Vagrant cloud, which is here. Yeah, so these are various boxes from the Vagrant cloud you can download. To obtain a new box, you can use Vagrant box add name and the URL taken from here, and you can install it. So I have 3 boxes and I have used Jirlingai CentOS 7 in the Vagrant file. Yeah, and next thing we did is we add Apache playbook .oml file, and we have had a certain kind of tasks, and we added executed using the Ansible provision within the Vagrant file, and the execution is successfully completed, except this running handler that is not a cause, that's not any harmful. So far we are good, and the objective of this post is to install Apache webserver and do a port forwarding. The port forwarding stuff was here, not this file, Vagrant. Yeah, the host is 8080 and the 80. So as we have tested it here in the Mac OS localhost 8080, I'm getting the same page, and here I'm getting the same page. So maybe one more thing we could do is that, since we have the document root is kind of shared, so we can create a hello HTML, maybe a new HTML, new.html, and just type some wait a minute. Yeah, let's type some content here. Yeah, so let's hit it. Yeah, it works, and let's do it here also. Yeah, so thank you. Please make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Thank you. We'll see you in the next video.